Today we're diving into the legitimately insane US military buildup in the Middle East. Obviously, this situation has the entire Middle East and basically the whole world at this point on edge, especially with the way that Iran is rattling its sabers, teamed up with the massive US military buildup in the region. This is the biggest surge of military power to the Middle East since June of 2025, just before the strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. With President Trump calling this the massive armada, it is circling Iran. It involves tens of thousands of troops, carriers, fighters, and missile defenses. You've got naval groups in the Arabian Sea, air reinforcements in Jordan, and THAAD, Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, getting your acronym to you early in this video. Those are systems that are popping up everywhere to counter Iranian threats. And then check this out. This is the kind of propaganda that comes out of Dr. Evil. I mean, the Ayatollah in Iran. Just watch. They're basically telling their population that they can shoot down the B-2 in this fashion. So let's go ahead and have a watch of this video. All right, there goes the B-2 taking off. Yeah, about 100 missiles coming out of there. Oh, yep. I guess that's how you take down a B-2. This is the kind of propaganda that Iran is pushing on the West, saying that they can strike down these B-2s. Now, if you look at that, that is actually launching off of a ship. So that might tell us more than what Iran wants us to know. They're obviously hiding these different weapon systems on commercial ships that look like they might just be for some sort of cargo. And then they have the ability to shoot Fatah 101 or other missiles. So Iran's trying to push this propaganda, but basically they just leaked what their strategy would be and what their strategy is in the Middle East, and that is disguising different ships that have these surface-to-air missile launchers on them. So staying diligent as B-2 pilots and its other pilots is going to be huge, knowing that Iran is going to hide a lot of these surface-to-air missile threats on different cargo ships in the area. But as you can see, striking down this B-2, again, Iran is like, yeah, this is totally easy. This is what we do every single day. This is a Tuesday. So that's the kind of propaganda we're dealing with. And then CNN is reporting, oh, thank you, CNN, that Iran's supreme leader acknowledges that thousands were killed in the protests, but what it goes on to say is that it was everybody else's fault. It wasn't the Ayatollah's fault. He's obviously perfect. He's obviously God. And everyone else, Israel, the US, created these different protests against a perfect regime. Again, the worst X you could ever think of, gaslighting us every single day and being platformed by CNN. CNN, thank you for doing that for the Ayatollah. I'm sure the Ayatollah has put you on his Christmas card list. What a great guy. And then here's the Iranian foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi. He said an all-out confrontation would be ferocious. And when you look at this guy, he just looks like he's being blackmailed. I mean, he just looks like the Ayatollah basically has a gun to his head at all times. I feel bad for this dude. I mean, he's sitting there spouting the propaganda of the Ayatollah, and it just looks to me like he doesn't really believe it, but he knows that his probably whole family would go away if he doesn't just say exactly what the Ayatollah wants him to. And so Ayatollah Khamenei, he warned of a regional war if the US attacks, and the foreign minister that we just looked at, he's talking about diplomacy, potential nuclear talks, but he's denying any ultimatum, saying that Iran integrated 1,000 new homegrown drones into frontline forces. And right now, literally in the last day, Iran is conducting live fire naval drills very close to where US warships are operating. So stick around to the end of the video for a full breakdown on what's going on with those naval drills and what a regional war scenario could look like. We'll do a hypothetical situation of how this could go down, how to handle Iranian drone swarms, and the systems that would do it. Right now, we're in a new era of high stakes deterrence, proxies, oil choke points, very close quarters with these two different forces in the area, naval drills going on from Iran, military drills going on from the US, and tensions are rising faster than your ex's anger when they find out you're in a good relationship after the breakup. Okay, so let's get into what the threat is from Iran and what Khamenei's regional war play really means. This isn't just US versus Iran, as you can imagine. This is what Iran sees as a full-blown multi-front mess involving their axis of resistance. Proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen, and Shia militias in Iraq and Syria. If things kick off, expect coordinated missile and drone strikes from those different proxies and Iran itself on U.S. bases like Al Udeid in Qatar, Houthi attacks disrupting Red Sea shipping, and Hezbollah launching rocket barrages at Israel. Iran could try closing the Straits of Hormuz. That would be something that they might give a shot at. But again, a fifth of the world's oil that they also benefit from as well, selling pretty much all of their oil to China. But that would spike oil prices worldwide, and it would probably draw in Saudi Arabia or maybe even Russia. The tactics that Iran would use would include asymmetric warfare. That's the name of the game for them. Swarms of Shahed 136 drones to saturate defenses, and then fast attack boats is what we're seeing with these naval drills that's going on right now, like the Paykop class that is armed with C-802 anti-ship missiles. Again, blending in the anti-ship missiles, like what we talked about, is the name of the game. They might even try to blend them into as small of boats as possible. So you might not think that those could launch anti-ship missiles, but likely integrating those into the smallest package possible to make the West think that these anti-ship missiles aren't out there, and then have 50 or 100 of these launch off of these different swarm boats. That's something that I could see as a naval tactic. And then electronic warfare is something they would be trying to do to try to blind U.S. aircraft radars. Right now, those live fire naval drills are happening in the Gulf of Oman and right near the Straits of Hormuz, exactly close to where the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is positioned. So again, the chances for a conflict are higher when both sides are doing drills right next to each other, and when Iran starts to say it's live fire drills. You got to think a drill at any point could turn into an actual attack. Iranian state media is showing missile boats, frigates, fast attack craft firing rockets, torpedoes, and anti-ship missiles at mock targets, with some of the exercise zones overlapping or coming uncomfortably close to international shipping lanes and U.S. operating areas. So how could this escalate? Well, a miscalculation during these drills. Say an Iranian fast boat gets a little too aggressive, a little too big for their britches, and they're trying to compensate for something. They're trying to show off to their fellow generals, and they're like, hey, hold my beer, watch this. And then a missile goes off course, or a U.S. ship interprets a live round as hostile because it's coming within a zone that they've deemed as this could actually hit us, and now we have to defend ourselves. That could trigger an immediate defensive response and turn a drill into a real firefight, and then spiral into the multi-front regional war that Dr. Evil, Ayatollah Khamenei, keeps warning us about. Propaganda-wise, though, Iran is framing the drills as routine defenses of their waters while denying any ultimatum, saying they don't want to negotiate at all while under any pressure, while having the carrier strike group nearby. And then internally, President Pezeshkian is pushing for the nuclear talks, saying that they do want to talk, but there's clear defiance at every step of the way. So will they negotiate in good faith? Have we seen Iran negotiate in good faith before? Yeah, again, being gaslit by that X, it just doesn't feel good. Even though we want to think they've changed, it just feels like we're being taken advantage of a little bit. You know what I mean? 1,000 new combat drones being moved to frontline forces, and then airlines around the region still rerouting all of their flights. The integrated air defense systems of Iran are likely on full alert at all times right now, with S-300s ready to go. Decoys and basically saturation attacks from their drones is what their main goal is. But shifting to the US side, let's focus on a couple jets that have arrived into the region as a part of this massive armada. Everything you could think of looks to be in theater right now. But specifically, let's talk about the A-10 and the F-15E. Those are prime drone killers for this buildup. They're perfect for creating a massive drone blockade if Iran unleashes its newly outfitted 1,000 drones on frontline areas in the region, and especially towards Israel. The A-10 Warthog, with its twin General Electric GE100 turbofan engines, produces about 9,000 pounds of thrust each. It tops out at a whopping 440 miles per hour, actually pretty fast for a flying tank, and it has a combat radius of 250 nautical miles with a lot of loiter time. It's ideal for low and slow patrols to shred drone swarms using its GAU-8 Avenger cannon that fires 3,900 rounds per minute of 30 millimeter, which is insane. I mean, it makes me feel a little insecure. I've got these 20 millimeter shells here on the shelf from the F-15E, and when I look at that 30 millimeter from the A-10, it makes me immediately want to go out and get a truck with big tires. And then the F-15E Strike Eagle, powered by twin Pratt & Whitney F-100 229s, 60,000 pounds of thrust, 700 nautical mile combat radius. It's got those anti-drone laser rockets, which would be massive. Let's say 60 of those rockets on each Strike Eagle, a wave of 8 Strike Eagles going in and striking down those drones. And they've done it before. There's a precedence from this from the 335th Chiefs and the 494th Panthers. They have actually done this before, where they slayed over 80 drones in one night. So highly capable squadrons to set up that drone blockade, and they're in theater ready to go. This is go time for them, and this is basically the definition of being in the danger zone, but it's what every fighter pilot hopes for. It's the Super Bowl of fighter jet aviation, striking down massive amounts of aerial targets and then crushing any targets on the ground. That's what the F-15E is perfect for. And on the naval side, the E-2D Hawkeye is the aircraft that will be up pushing a ton of information to the carrier strike group to determine, hey, is this an actual attack, or is this just actually part of the naval drills from Iran? Do we need to respond? The E-2D Hawkeye is the airborne warning and control system. It's the mini AWACS, and it can cue in SM-6 missiles. It can attach to the Aegis system and pump tons of information to all the different jets in the area, even down to giving information to the CWIS, the close-in weapon systems. That is a radar-guided gun, Gatling gun, that can spray about 3,000 rounds per minute. And it's not a spray and pray. This is a direct to the target, get it done, shoot it down, and make it happen. Really cool seeing these things operating, but all these are going to tie in to make sure the carrier and the strike group are being protected. All these different systems, AI-assisted systems that will likely prioritize swarm threats. So if a swarm threat is detected, a lot of these layered defenses will focus on taking down that swarm threat and then teaming up with the EA-18G Growler, which hopefully at this point has the ability to use microwave systems, electronic attack to take down massive swaths of a drone swarm. And then teaming that all up with Patriot missiles that could intercept fixed wing assets, which is highly unlikely since Iran's Air Force is rusted, likely just sitting around, not a lot of maintenance. They're focused on ballistic missiles, so the THAAD weapon system will be something that will be trying to take down those longer range, high altitude missiles. Okay, let's move to the section I like to call 4D chess. So let's talk about a full-blown regional war, and Iran's axis of resistance kicks off with Hezbollah hammering Israel with rockets, Houthis choking Red Sea shipping lanes, Shia militias hitting US bases across Iraq and Syria, and Iran itself attempting to close the Straits of Hormuz, spiking oil prices to $150 a barrel and triggering global economic chaos that could pull in Russia or China for political or material support and create massive refugee flows and ethnic flare-ups in places like Syria and Lebanon. The US would counter by leaning hard on the current buildup, the carrier air wings, F-35s, F-18s, F-15s, A-10s in Jordan, basically going up to dismantle drone swarms and strike down fast boats to try to get the Straits of Hormuz open as soon as possible. And then the missile operators are going to be pretty much the stars of the show. THAAD missile operators, Patriot battery missile operators, knocking down ballistics and cruise missiles. Tight coordination with Israel and other Gulf allies will be huge for shared intel, joint strikes, naval escorts to try to reopen the choke points in the Straits of Hormuz. At the same time, trying to do back-channel diplomacy through Qatar and Turkey to try to keep the Straits open as potentially the regime of Khamenei starts to fall and unwind and unravel. Again, if Iran spikes oil prices like this, shuts down the Straits of Hormuz, Russia and China could go the other way as well. They could back the US, or at least softly back the US, by not sticking up for Iran as much as they have been recently, and just kind of waiting and watching and hoping that the energy flow starts as soon as possible, because a lot of this comes down to that massive flow of that sweet, sweet crude that moves through the Straits of Hormuz. And keeping that open is really China's focus at this point, because again, they've brought in over 18 flights of cargo planes, which are said to have potentially advanced surface-to-air radars to try to protect the regime itself. So would they double down, or would they back off to try to just get the flow of oil opened up again. So that brings us to the hypothetical situation. Let's say Iran gets a little bit too big for their britches and they try to disguise a container ship with the different weapons they have. Fatah 101, different anti-ship missiles. Let's say they launch those off, disguising it as just a naval drill, but it's headed right for the carrier. So at this point, certain missile systems would need to go into action. SM-6s would launch to take down those anti-ship missiles. And then a swarm would be coming out of Iran, obviously. That's their number one go-to. So the F-15Es, the A-10s, and the F-18s off of the carrier would blast off and start schwacking down that drone swarm. Schwacking, that is an official military term. Look it up. It's in tech orders across the military. They'd be schwacking down that swarm, likely taking down 500 or so Shahed 136s would be the goal. And then anything left over would be struck down by that Sea Whiz. 3,900 rounds per minute, blazing through those different drones that got in close. And at the end of the day, this would kick off that regional war and all bets are off. What do you think? Do you think diplomacy will win here? And again, diplomacy with Iran, what does that really mean? To me, diplomacy with Iran means, okay, we're going to delay this thing out a little bit longer and see what happens next time, because again, the thousands of deaths of the protesters, that's just going to happen again as long as the regime of Khamenei stays in place. That's what they do. They kill themselves out of tough situations. That's what they did with the protesters this time. They'll do it again, and this diplomacy to me might just drag this out. But what do you think? What's your perspective on it? Would love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below, and then follow me on X, follow me on Instagram. I've also got a Patreon set up for a live every single week. So pop over to Patreon. I'll put a link in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate you being here. I'll see you in the next video that pops up right here. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.